Florida's got 20 programs that can slash your housing costs in retirement or eliminate them completely. We're talking property tax that drops to zero, home repairs covered up to $50,000, rent capped at 30% of your income no matter what you're bringing in. And here's the part that'll piss you off. Most retirees have no idea these exist. They're not advertised. They're buried in county offices, hidden in local ordinances, managed by agencies with acronyms nobody can remember. The system's designed to help you, but only if you know exactly which door to knock on, which birthday unlocks which benefit, and how to stack programs the way the state intended. Some of this stuff is federal, some is state-run, and some only exists in specific cities, which means two retirees with the exact same income could be living wildly different financial realities depending on whether they know about Program 6 versus Program 12. Here are 20 Florida programs that help retirees get free or discounted housing. Low-income senior property tax exemption. Turn 65 in Florida and you unlock something most retirees don't even know exists. A property tax exemption that can cut up to $50,000 off your home's assessed value. Not your tax bill, your assessed value. Which means if your home is worth $200,000, the county might only tax you on $150,000. Or $100,000, or nothing if you stack this right. The income limit is $37,694 in total adjusted gross household income. And before you think that disqualifies you, here's the thing nobody mentions. Social Security benefits mostly don't count toward that number if you're in this bracket. So a couple pulling in $40,000 might actually qualify because half of it's Social Security. You file through your county property appraiser, that's the office that matters, and the deadline is March 1st every year. Miss it, you wait another year. The form is DR 501, and you'll need the Household Income Sworn Statement, which is DR 501 SC. This isn't a discount, it's a recalibration of what you owe. Long-term resident senior exemption. Same income limit, $37,694, but now you need two things. You've lived in your home for 25 consecutive years, and when you first apply, the property's market value has to be under $250,000. That's it. You get the same assessed value reduction, but this one's specifically designed to protect people who bought their house decades ago and watched their neighborhood turn expensive. The state doesn't want you taxed out of a home you've lived in since 2000. You still file with the county property appraiser, still use Form DR 501, but you'll check the box that says you've been a permanent resident for 25 years or more. And here's where Florida's system gets messy. The state sets the eligibility rules, but your county decides whether to actually adopt the exemption. So you can qualify statewide and still get nothing if your county commissioners never pass the ordinance. Which means step 1 is confirming your county offers this. If they do, it stacks with everything else. Disabled Veteran Property Tax Discount. You're 65 or older, you've got a service-connected disability from the VA, and the disability is combat-related. Florida gives you a property tax discount that matches your VA disability rating, percentage for percentage. You're rated 70% disabled, you get a 70% discount on your assessed value. Rated 100%, your property tax drops to zero. No income limit on this one. It's status-based, not means-tested. And if you die, your surviving spouse keeps the discount as long as they still own the home, live there, and don't remarry. That's a transferable benefit most states don't offer. You file through the county property appraiser, and you'll need your VA documentation showing the combat-related disability rating. This is one of the few programs where being a veteran doesn't just get you a thank you. It gets you a measurable financial shield that lasts the rest of your life and potentially your spouse's life too. Widow or widower exemption. $5,000 off your assessed value. That's the benefit. No income requirement, no asset test, just proof that your spouse died before January 1st of the tax year and you haven't remarried. You file a copy of the death certificate with the county property appraiser, write a letter requesting the exemption, and if you're approved, you save about $100 a year in actual tax. Which sounds small until you remember this stacks with everything else. A 65-year-old widow with low income who's been in her home 30 years can combine this with programs 1 and 2, and suddenly her $200,000 house is being taxed like it's worth $100,000. That's the stacking move. The state built these to overlap on purpose because they'd rather you keep your house than end up in a Medicaid-funded nursing home. Totally and permanently disabled or blind exemption. Another $5,000 assessed value reduction, and this one's not age-restricted. You're totally and permanently disabled or legally blind, you prove it with a doctor's certificate or social security documentation, and you're done. The form is DR 416 if you're going through a Florida licensed physician. But you can also use VA certification or social security disability paperwork. Legally blind qualifies, and you can prove that through a Florida optometrist. This exemption shows up in the weirdest combinations. Someone who's 66, widowed, and legally blind can stack programs 1, 4, and 5 simultaneously. 3 separate assessed value reductions applied to the same property. That's why the county property appraiser office is so critical. They're the ones managing this entire layering system, and if you don't ask for every exemption you qualify for, they won't volunteer it. USDA Section 504 Home Repair Grant. If you're 62 or older, own your home in a rural area, and meet the very low income limit for your county, you can get up to $10,000 in grant money to remove health and safety hazards. Not a loan, a grant. The catch: rural area means communities under 35,000 population. So if you retired to a small town on Florida's Gulf Coast or up in the Panhandle, you just unlocked a resource that Miami and Tampa retirees can't touch. The grants cover things like fixing dangerous wiring, repairing a collapsing porch, addressing plumbing that's creating mold, stuff that could kill you or land you in the hospital. You apply through your local USDA Rural Development Office, and they process applications year-round. There's a lifetime cap on the grant, and if you sell the house within 3 years, you have to pay it back. But if you're planning to stay, this is $10,000 you don't have to pull from savings or put on a credit card. USDA Section 504 Home Repair Loan. Same program, different mechanism. If the repairs go beyond $10,000, you can borrow up to $40,000 at a 1% fixed interest rate over 20 years. And here's the move. You can combine the grant and the loan for up to $50,000 total. So a 62-year-old in a rural county who needs a new roof, electrical work, and accessibility modifications can get $10,000 free and $40,000 financed at a rate nobody in the private market would ever offer. The payment on $40,000 at 1% over 20 years is about $184 a month. That's cheaper than most car payments, and it's keeping you in a house that's now safe to live in for the next 2 decades. Same office, same application process, same rural requirement. This is why where you retire matters as much as how much money you have. Ship Owner Occupied Rehabilitation. The State Housing Initiative's partnership is a pool of state money distributed to every county and eligible city in Florida, and each one writes its own rules. That's the problem and the opportunity. SHIP funds can be used for home repairs, and the benefit caps are all over the map. The town of Davie offers up to $70,000. Other counties cap it at $25,000. Some prioritize very low-income seniors. Others go up to 120% of area median income. You have to check your specific city or county's local housing assistance plan to see what you qualify for, and those plans change every few years based on funding. The application process is local. You're contacting your county or city SHIP office, not the state. And because 60% of SHIP construction funds have to go to households below 80% AMI, low-income seniors usually get priority. If you're in a county with generous caps and you qualify, this can fund a full home renovation. If you're in a county that didn't allocate much to rehab, you might get nothing. Weatherization Assistance Program. High electric bills aren't just annoying. They're a financial drain that compounds every month. The Weatherization Assistance Program targets that by air sealing your home, adding insulation, and making efficiency upgrades that cut your utility costs. The program gives preference to people over 60, people with disabilities, and anyone demonstrating a high energy burden, which means you're spending a disproportionate chunk of income on electricity. Income limit is usually 200% of the federal poverty level, but local programs can tighten that to 120% of area median income. You apply through your local weatherization provider, and the work is free. They'll assess your home, identify where you're losing energy, and make the fixes. A senior in Central Florida running AC 9 months a year could see their electric bill drop by 20 to 30%, which over 10 years is thousands of dollars staying in their account instead of going to the utility company. Habitat for Humanity Aging in Place. Habitat doesn't just build houses, they modify them. The Aging in Place program focuses on accessibility, grab bars in the bathroom, wheelchair ramps, widening doorways, lowering countertops. They're targeting the specific barriers that make a house dangerous for someone with mobility issues, and they pair the repairs with social service connections because they figured out that a ramp doesn't help if you're isolated and have no way to get groceries. This is the Housing Plus model, home modification tied to case management. The services are delivered by your local Habitat affiliate, so availability depends entirely on whether your area has an active program. If they do, it's free or very low cost for qualifying seniors. If they don't, you're back to paying out of pocket or trying to access SHIP funds. Area Agency on Aging Minor Home Repair. Your local Area Agency on Aging coordinates services for seniors 60 and older, and one of those services is minor home repair. We're talking small fixes, leaking faucet, broken handrail, faulty light switch, that aren't major renovations but create immediate safety risks. These programs are designed for low-income homeowners who can't afford to hire a handyman, and they're often delivered through partnerships with nonprofits like Rebuilding Together. The repairs are free, but capacity is limited. You contact your regional AAA or the Aging and Disability Resource Center in your county, and they'll assess whether you qualify and what they can fix. It's not going to fund a kitchen remodel, but it will stop a small problem from becoming a big one. And for seniors on fixed incomes, that prevention is the whole point. Housing Choice Voucher Program. Section 8 is the gold standard for rental assistance, and it works like this. You find a private landlord willing to accept the voucher. The local public housing authority inspects the unit, and if it passes, you pay about 30% of your adjusted gross income toward rent. The voucher covers the rest. For a senior with $1,500 a month in income, that's $450 in rent, and the voucher picks up whatever the market rate is beyond that. The problem is demand. Waiting lists are years long in most Florida counties. The solution is elderly preference. If you're 62 or older, many public housing authorities move you up the list ahead of the general population. You have to claim that status when you apply, and you have to bring documentation, proof of age, proof of assets, verification of medical expenses if you're over 62, because those expenses can be deducted from your income calculation, which lowers your rent contribution. The agency that administers this is your local PHA, not HUD directly. You apply locally, you wait locally, and if you get approved, the benefit follows you as long as you stay in the jurisdiction. Section 202, Supportive Housing for the Elderly. Section 202 is purpose-built senior housing, and it only exists in developments that received federal funding to construct it. You're 62 or older, your income is at or below 50% of area median income, and you're looking for an apartment with built-in accessibility features and access to services. Rent is capped at 30% of your income. The buildings typically include grab bars, ramps, elevators, and on-site activities. Some have service coordinators who help residents apply for benefits, arrange transportation, and connect to healthcare. It's subsidized independent living designed to delay the need for assisted living or nursing care. You don't apply for Section 202 in general, you apply to specific developments that participate in the program. And because each property has its own wait list, your best strategy is getting on multiple lists and taking the first one that opens up. Optional State Supplementation Program. When a senior can no longer live independently and needs residential care, an assisted living facility, but doesn't qualify for full Medicaid coverage, the Optional State Supplementation Program fills part of that gap. It's administered by the Florida Department of Children and Families, and it provides limited financial aid specifically for seniors who need help paying for ALF placement. This isn't housing assistance in the traditional sense. It's financial support to prevent homelessness for frail seniors who've reached the point where staying in a house alone isn't safe. The benefit is modest, the eligibility requirements are strict, and it's means tested. But for someone who's spent down their assets and needs care, it's the difference between institutional placement and being discharged from a hospital with nowhere to go. Local SHIP tenant assistance. SHIP funds aren't just for repairs. They can be used for rental assistance, security deposits, and utility deposits. And because the rules are local, the benefit amounts vary wildly. Lake County allocates up to $3,000 for security and utility deposits and up to $15,000 for prevention rental assistance. Other counties cap it lower. The money is designed to prevent evictions and homelessness, short-term emergency aid to keep someone housed while they stabilize. Income limits typically range from 80% to 120% of area median income depending on the jurisdiction. Funds run out fast, so you apply as soon as you know you're at risk. Your contact point is your local city or county SHIP administrator, and every locality posts its benefit limits and eligibility rules in its local housing assistance plan. Local senior rental assistance programs. Some cities run dedicated rental programs just for seniors, and they're designed to help people who don't have Section 8 yet, or who will never get it because the wait list is closed. The City of Miami's program gives up to $500 a month for 12 months to renters age 62 or older who are at or below 50% AMI and spending more than 30% of their income on rent. Catch: you can't already be receiving Section 8 or another deep subsidy. The program is explicitly targeting the gap population, seniors who qualify as very low income but haven't secured federal assistance. Other cities have their own versions with different caps and timelines. You have to search by city name, not by state program, because these are hyperlocal resources funded by municipal budgets. If your city offers one and you meet the criteria, it's a year of breathing room while you wait for something permanent. Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Rental Search. The Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program creates affordable rental units by giving developers tax incentives to build or renovate properties with income restrictions. The units are scattered across Florida in hundreds of developments, and they're not labeled affordable housing on the outside. They're just apartments with income caps. The trick is finding them. Florida Housing Finance Corporation runs a free statewide search tool, floridahousingsearch.org. You enter your county, your income, and your household size, and it returns every available income-restricted unit in the area. For a senior whose income puts them above the very low income threshold for Section 8 but below market rent affordability, LIHTC properties are the solution. They're typically restricted to households at or below 60% of area median income, and the rents are set by formula, not by demand. Elderly Housing Community Loan Program. The Elderly Housing Community Loan Program is a state financing tool managed by Florida Housing Finance Corporation, and it funds the development of rental housing specifically for seniors. When you see a property that received EHCL funding, that's a signal. The development was built with affordability requirements, it's age-restricted, and it's designed for long-term stability. You don't apply for EHCL as a renter, you apply to live in properties that were financed by it. But knowing the program exists helps you identify which developments are genuinely affordable versus which are just marketed that way. The state tracks these properties, and many are searchable through the same Florida Housing Finance Corporation database. If a building got EHCL money, it's obligated to maintain income restrictions for decades, which means you're less likely to get priced out. Nonprofit affordable retirement communities. Organizations like Volunteers of America and Westminster Communities of Florida run HUD-affiliated retirement communities that serve low-income seniors aged 62 and older. Rents are at or below market because of the nonprofit structure and federal funding, but the real advantage is the service coordinator. These properties employ full-time staff whose job is to help residents access benefits, arrange transportation, and prevent crises before they lead to housing loss. A resident struggling with medical bills gets connected to assistance programs. A resident who's isolated gets linked to meal delivery. The housing and the support are integrated, which is why these communities have lower eviction and turnover rates than comparable market rate buildings. You apply directly to each organization, and each property has its own wait list and eligibility requirements. CARES and Community Care for the Elderly. The Department of Elder Affairs runs programs that aren't technically housing assistance but function as housing stabilization. The CARES program is the assessment system for anyone seeking Medicaid-funded long-term care, whether at home or in a facility. Community care for the elderly provides non-Medicaid services, case management, personal care, respite, that helps seniors stay in their homes instead of moving to institutions. When a senior can't manage daily tasks, these programs step in with support that prevents the cascade of crises that lead to housing loss. It's preventive, not reactive. The state funds this because keeping a senior at home with services costs a fraction of what nursing home placement costs. You access these programs through your local area agency on aging, and eligibility is based on age, 60 or older, income, and need. The services themselves don't pay rent, but they stabilize the person so they can stay housed. Florida built this system in layers because housing stability isn't a single problem. It's a dozen problems stacked on top of each other. Property taxes, deferred maintenance, rent inflation, frailty, isolation. They designed 20 different tools to address 20 different pressure points, and they scattered them across federal agencies, state departments, county offices, and nonprofit partners. Some programs require you to be exactly 62, some require 65, some are rural only, some are city-specific. The income thresholds shift depending on whether you're applying for property tax relief or rental assistance, and the benefit amounts depend entirely on which county adopted which ordinance. It's not simple, but it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be comprehensive. And if you know which 3 offices to contact, county property appraiser, local SHIP administrator, area agency on aging, you can access 90% of what's available. The system works if you work the system.